Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tech Academy. My name is Adam Lavergne, and today we'll be mastering order management rules with techOMS. Whether you're a tech enthusiast or simply looking to streamline your operations, this session will provide practical insights you can apply immediately. In our last episode, we explored the latest trends and innovations in warehouse management and how techOMS helps keep you ahead of the curve. We covered key basic practices including techOMS is your single source of the truth, ensuring all orders flow through techOMS for accurate synchronization, leveraging real-time adjustments for multi-channel growth, using scheduled full inventory sync to correct data drift, keeping manual mode as a temporary inventory sync mechanism, pausing fulfillment during initial inventory sync alignment, and understanding that inventory accuracy drives revenue, customer satisfaction, and scalability. Today, we're shifting gears to walk through some of the most common order management rules, what they mean, how they work, and when to use them. Let's go ahead and open up techOMS. All right, we've got techOMS open. Before diving in, let's cover a few fundamental concepts. First off, we have the concept of the trigger. So we look at the rule, you can see the trigger here, API workflow, UI workflow, or API and UI workflow. This defines what initiates the rule. So API driven, that's your sales channel integrations. UI driven, that's manual, allocate, and fulfill within techOMS. And of course, the combination is a combination of both. From here, we also have priority. Priority determines the sequence in which the rules execute. If all rules share the same priority, unintended results can occur. Best practice, priority number 1, writing, priority number 2, order reference, priority number 3, line level actions, etc. Like when you're writing the rules, what is the order of operation you want those rules to run in? And based off of that, set your priority accordingly. So now let's take a look at some of these key rules. First, we're going to start off with a basic static order routing rule. And in this rule, what we're looking at is we're routing to 3 different nodes. So we have a Western Canada node, an Eastern Canada node, and a Central node. So the first thing we're doing is we're looking at a condition and determining if the order is shipping to one of the provinces that we've defined as Western Canada. And then in addition, if that warehouse has sufficient inventory available. If this condition is true, we're going to send the order to the West warehouse. If it's false, we're now looking to see, is it part of our Atlantic region? And is there enough stock in our Atlantic region? Again, if true, we'll now send this to the Atlantic region. If false, it's neither West nor Atlantic or East, we're going to default it from an air handling perspective to our Ontario warehouse. So that's a basic static rule that's using province. You could also do this using state. If you wanted to get more prescriptive, you could define this based off of postal code or zip code. This is best for simple east-west fulfillment strategies, a couple fulfilling nodes. It's quick and easy to set up. There's no additional services required. However, there are some limitations. Limitations can include missed edge cases, for example, border cities. If you're on the eastern border of Quebec, it may actually be cheaper to ship the order to you from an eastern warehouse than it is to ship from the Ontario warehouse. Same thing happens with various states. Also, it's not dynamic. This does not use any real-time carrier data in making decisions. So now we've walked through our basic static routing rule. Let's take a look at dynamic order routing. Dynamic order routing leverages real-time API calls to techSHIP to compare delivery times, estimated shipping rates. It does require a techSHIP subscription. Benefits. Dynamic order routing routes orders to the most optimal warehouse. It's data-driven and adaptive. Considerations, it's more complex to set up. It requires a techSHIP integration. And in addition, the rate shop call does not account for packaging variables, multiple parcels, dunnage, etc. And then again, the rule sequence is critical for accuracy. So now let's walk through dynamic order routing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take an inventory position of our different fulfilling locations. And you can see here we've given each warehouse location a priority. I'll come back to that in a moment. Next, we're going to initiate the techSHIP time and transit call for those 4 locations. Now we have our warehouse selection criteria. We are only leveraging warehouses that have sufficient stock to fulfill this order. And here we're using the lowest estimated cost of shipping. You can also route orders based off of warehouse priority. So an example, you're a 3PL, but during holiday, You've exceeded the capacity of your own storage facility, so you're using an additional third-party facility to carry your overstock. You may want to draw down the overstock from a rented location before routing orders back to your own principal location, assuming, of course, the costs are higher in the rented location than your own. Shortest time in transit looks at the closest or the earliest delivery date. And if multiple nodes have the same delivery date, techOMS will then look at the carrier in service that meets that date. And we'll select the carrier in service with the cheapest estimated cost of delivery that equals the shortest time in transit. So for example, 2 nodes can meet the March 31st delivery. There's 3 carrier services for each of those 2 nodes, giving you 6 possible results from a carrier service perspective. So techOMS will look at all 6 of those results and will select the location that has the cheapest shipping cost. In the event that there's a tie on shipping cost, so both locations meet March 31st, there's a tie on shipping cost, techOMS will then use a third priority, which is warehouse priority, in the selection of that. If we look at lowest shipping cost, we flip it around. We drive with cost. So techOMS will look at all 4 nodes and we'll select the node that has the lowest shipping cost. In the event of a tie, if there's multiple nodes that have a carrier service that has the same estimated shipping cost, techOMS will then look at delivery dates and we'll select the lowest estimated delivery cost with the shortest delivery date as the secondary metric. And should you hit a third metric, warehouse priority will be used as that third metric. From here, we can override the carrier and service information on the order with the resulted carrier and service suggested by the techOMS rate shopping call. This isn't required. This will prevent you from rate shopping in techSHIP, as it will default techSHIP to the carrier and service selected. Again, it depends on your workflow, when to use this, why to use this. For more specific examples, we can touch on that after. And now you can update your references. So you can add references for expected delivery days, expected delivery date, etc. And that you would then map to your WMS. So what about split shipping? Well, you can add split shipping to this. You can automate the split shipping. So let's get rid of the carrier and the references, and let's add the split shipment action. So now we can define splits. I like to leave splits at 2. Splits are very costly. They're prohibitive. So in this case, techOMS, if it cannot select a warehouse that will fulfill this order in its entirety, it will create split shipments, up to 2 split shipments for this order. To qualify, the first shipment has to equal or exceed 50% of counted items. You could also do it based off of order value. The idea is you want to have at least half of the order, in maximum of 2, at least half of the order available to fulfill in the primary location. The balance would be routed to a second fulfillment location, or in the event that there is not a second fulfillment location, it will be back ordered for automated backorder management once inventory becomes available. Let's save that. And now we can go ahead and we can add our carrier and service. And we can add our order references. Select carrier service, we can use our target variables. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add those order reference action. Order reference is a 2-part process. So here we're going to select the target variable, which is the calculated result, and it's going to be delivery days. And we're going to call it delivery days. So part 1 is generating the reference. So now this rule is done. Dynamic order routing, split shipments. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have to go to our fulfillment channel, and we're going to have to pass that. So we're going to pass delivery days to, so let's look what we have in terms of notes fields within extensive. Let's pass it to shipping notes. So now delivery days is going to be passed to shipping notes within extensive, so that information then becomes available within your WMS. Okay, so we've touched on static routing rules, we've touched on our dynamic routing rules, we've touched on split shipments, I've showed you how to pass that reference mapping information along. Let's get into some advanced order rules. We can explore more advanced and specialized use cases. So this use case, it's a fraud hold, but we also used a separate branch to create a high value order hold. So the use of fraud score from the sales channel as a condition automatically holds orders above the prescribed threshold. All right, so if we look at the conditions, we're setting the sales channel to equal Shopify. Shopify provides fraud score or fraud analytics as part of its order payload. So in this case, greater to or equal than a medium risk. WooCommerce also provides information on fraud. However, the WooCommerce is a optional analytics piece that has a attached cost to it. In the event that this is true, so it's the Shopify sales channel and the fraud is equal to or greater than medium, we're going to set this order to draft status. When you set an order to draft status in techOMS, it prevents that order from being sent to the WMS for fulfillment. So this order is now locked, stuck in techOMS until a manual action is taken. From a warehouse fulfillment standpoint, you cannot inadvertently ship this questionable order. So now let's tell your customer this order has been placed on a fraud hold pending further review. So now the expectation is that your customer is going to come into techOMS. They're going to look at this order in techOMS. Maybe they're going to Shopify to look at the particular details why Shopify thinks this is a medium to high risk of fraud. They come back into techOMS. If they agree, we're comfortable with this. We think this is a reasonable order. The customer can then release this order in techOMS, move it to an approved state, allocate and fulfill, which will create the shipment and push it to the WMS to be fulfilled. So now you've had a sober second thought by your customer on this order to validate whether or not this should be treated as fraud. Should there be a problem down the road, your customer releasing this order is part of the audit trail. A similar action or activity is often used for high value orders. So in this case here, an order that's equal to or greater than $2,000. Similar workflow. If there's an order that's over $2,000, move it to draft. And let's tell somebody. Again, you're now providing notification to your customer, should they wish, for high value orders, where they can come in and review the order and release the order. Make sure they're comfortable with it and release it. All the while, these orders, high value orders or fraud orders, are isolated within techOMS. They are not part of your warehouse fulfillment system. You do not have to worry about filtering these out as you're running your pick waves. The idea here is until these are resolved, either canceled or approved from the system or pushed to the warehouse, it's noise from a fulfillment perspective. By having this siloed with techOMS pending review, it means that from a warehouse perspective, it does not cause any implications. It reduces confusion. It allows the warehouse to do what the warehouse does best, which is fulfill orders at maximum velocity. Let's look at another example. So here's a order hold for Hawaii, right? Could be Hawaii, could be used for Alaska, Puerto Rico. In Canada, you can use this for the territories, Nunavut, Yukon, Northwest Territories. And again, if it is true, if the state or the province equals as defined, we set the order to a draft status and we create that notification action. Oftentimes, the reason you're going to put this to a draft status and notify is because it requires a custom delivery quote. And then circle back with the customer to make sure the customer is willing and able to pay for that custom delivery quote before it proceeds. So this allows you to do exception-based management within techOMS, working with your customers for, again, Hawaii or what have you, that keep it from your WMS while you resolve this, while you do the quote, get the approval from the customer. This order is not part of your WMS. You don't have to worry about it being inadvertently shipped, etc. Could also do this based off of product if you want to offer a white glove experience. So as we continue on those advanced rules, next one we come across is signature required. So again, orders over $250 in the country equals Canada. It's considered international. We're going to treat this as suspect. We're going to add signature required. So here, we're creating the reference signature, the value signature required. We're also going to create the reference insurance, and that value is insurance required. In both of these instances, if we come back to our fulfillment channel, you're able to now determine where do you want to pass it. So we've got signature, And I don't know if there's a dedicated, no, there's not a dedicated signature field. So again, in the world of Synapse made for Net, you can use one of the pass-through fields for that information. Or you could use a delivery service, or again, you can see here we've indexed every API endpoint that you're able to access. And then we've got the same thing for insurance. So no dedicated insurance field. So let's put this to instructions. And now you've created that reference. And again, each one of these reference that we create, these are individualized by account. So now you've automated when to apply signature required and or insurance flags based off of your customer's particular details. And being that these are definable by individual customer, individual account, one customer may say signature required at 500. Another customer may say anything over 100 requires insurance. You can create those unique custom rules within the individual customer accounts. Here's an easy one. We're going to define carrier and service based off of company name. So Claristore, they've got an agreement with FedEx Ground. It's a third-party shipment. We're going to attach the specific carrier account number and the carrier particulars to this order. And then we're going to add some order notes. All of this is now defined and gets passed through. So when this order comes in, regardless of the carrier and service that's received for this order, we know Claristore uses their own FedEx Ground account. We've updated the carrier, we've updated the service, and we've gone ahead and we've added third-party shipping in the included billing information. This now all passes to your WMS system. When you connect to techSHIP, techSHIP will read all of these fields and select FedEx Ground, third party, and apply the carrier information automatically, saving your shipper from having to look through a table and define this. If your carrier solution or your shipping solution is not able to do that, call us. We can help you. Any shipping solution worth its salt should be able to access these fields within the WMS and automate that carrier service selection and provide that third-party billing. So we're going to do an exception based. So if it's not Claristore and it's a good friends at Costco, we're going to apply the global UPS second day expedited, and we're going to apply their particular third-party information, billing account information, and then again, text value if we want to push additional reference information attached to this order. So this takes away that human decision tree from the shipping station. My 20 plus years in retail, one of the mistakes I saw most frequently that my dropship vendors would do, they would forget to log out of my shipping account before they start processing another retailer's orders. Well, the bay is dearly departed. Maybe I should have been paying for the shipments, but you know what? That wasn't my problem. So the challenge I had is when done manually, the shipper's just passing all the orders through. They forget to change accounts. So I spent time and money having an analyst go through my bills on a monthly basis to highlight and find orders that were shipped for Walmart, orders that were shipped for the Bay, etc., on my own account. And then we would have to do a chargeback to the vendor. The frequency was getting to the point where we started introducing non-compliance fees because we were spending real money on labor chasing after errors made by customers. Next one we're going to look at, update missing bill to information. So orders must meet a minimum validation requirement, and techOMS validation requirements is ship to address, ship to state, and zip or postal code. State and zip and postal code depend on the country. Some countries do not have postal codes. Other countries don't have states. There's a table on the back end that defines that. But by and large, you have to have ship to information for that order to be ingested into techOMS. What happens if your bill to information is missing? So if address 1 is null, you could also add another condition. Let's do this in OR. And let's go find our bill to address. What we're going to do is we're going to use the reference rule action, and we're going to map the ship to address, the ship to city, the ship to state, we even add ship to postal to the bill to fields. So we're going to create that reference mapping within techOMS to automatically populate when the bill to information is missing. We're also going to raise an error to our exception dashboard. It's going to tell the user that the following order did not contain appropriate bill to information. It's one thing to resolve it immediately, but by raising the exception, you're also dealing with root cause. And again, bill to address, pretty simple from a fulfillment mapping perspective. And extensive, you come in and you would pass to so you have your bill to right here. So bill to address 1. And now you've created that link. You're using the ship to address to populate bill to, and now you're just passing bill to accordingly. Here's a little bit of automation. Some predefined workflows. I like to call this CRM-like or CRM Lite. More and more we're seeing our retail partners using customer tags within Shopify to do basic market segmentation, defining your customers who have high lifetime value, where you want to offer expedited shipping as a value add, as a thank you for their loyalty. Surprise and delight them by getting the order faster than they expected. Maybe it's a customer who likes free samples, who likes to feel unique and appreciated. So in this, the second stream, the first stream is, again, tag is VIP shipping. And if that's the case, we're going to update to an express carrier, and then we're going to update the third-party information. The second case for free candy, again, 2-part, we're doing this based off of sales channel and then tag value. If that's true, we're going to throw some swag in. We're going to throw a sample in with the package. Coupon code, if the order is over $250 and the tag is coupon code, this is often used as a bounce back, where it's you put a unique promotional code in with their package. This would be something where for a valid time frame, come back to the website and get a 15% off your next order. Commonly used in retail, considered bounce back, and it's a discount off of your next purchase, which encourages a recurring sale. Here's one I used to use a lot at holiday. Now we didn't have automation rules. I'd bring my managers in, we'd have a pizza lunch, we'd sign a bunch of cards. But it's a really nice gesture, especially for higher value orders, where if this is the case, customer's been deemed thanks and the order is over $250, you're actually adding a thank you card as a pickable SKU to the order. So when the customer receives their package, the first thing they're going to see is a thank you card. Thank you for the order. Showing that you appreciate them, you appreciate their business. Really nice touch. Again, this whole decision tree is automated. It runs 24/7, no human involvement. You set up the initial structure, and then this just fires along accordingly. It allows you as a 3PL fulfiller to offer additional function, additional benefit, and additional value to your customers. Next one we have is a product substitution rule. In techOMS, products can be substituted 2 ways. You can substitute with the product catalog itself by defining alternate SKUs. So should the primary SKU not be available, techOMS will replace it with the alternate SKUs in a descending priority. Always doesn't work for a lot of people. If you want to put conditions around when you substitute, you create a substitution order rule. So this condition is based off of a web sales channel. So only if it's from Bright Sites will this substitution rule apply. It will not apply to your Shopify orders, Fair orders, WooCommerce orders, etc. It's the same table. Replace the red lightsaber with blue, green, purple in descending priority sequence. And most importantly, let's make sure we throw an error on our exception dashboard that this product lacks sufficient inventory to fulfill. Why do we want to throw the error? Well, if you're relying on the substitution rule, you're fixing the outcome. The only time you're going to know about this as a retailer is if the customer calls up and says, hey, I ordered red and it's delivered blue. Oh, let me look into that. By raising the exception rule attached to the substitution rule, you're telling your customer, guys, we got an inventory problem. We solve for it with substitution, but you need to look at root cause being lack of inventory. And when I talk about the exceptions and where we would find those exceptions, let me just give it a bit more date range here so you can see it. It's under the home screen. We have our exception dashboard. So you can see missing product variant, no stock available, etc. Those other exceptions I've created, they would show up here as an error. So lack of stock, or an order hold, or whatever the case is, you would see them here as part of your daily operation screen. I'm going to look at another product substitution rule. So sometimes we want to substitute products because product purchase is out of stock, and we want to provide a substitute to make sure that order flows. In the world of food, sometimes you're going to want to substitute the product because you're getting near end of life. You're about to code. So if a customer orders an 8-pack of hot dogs, but your 12-pack of hot dogs is nearing end of life, maybe for a particular window of time, you're going to substitute the 12-pack of hot dogs for the 8-pack. So you can see here I'm using SKU A as a condition, but you could also use create date. So create date is greater than today. We're going to add an and. It's less than. Let's make it run for a week. But today, we'll have it expire on Sunday. So in this case here, we're setting a date range. So for the next week, if customer orders, pretend that's an 8-pack of hot dogs, sub out and give them a 12-pack instead. From a customer perspective, it's more product for the price. You're adding value. From the fulfiller perspective, it's a whole lot cheaper to give a 12-pack of hot dogs instead of an 8-pack on an order than it is to have that 12-pack code and have to be thrown out because it's expired, it's past its expiration date. So here's a perfect example of when you'd run a substitution rule, despite not actually being out of stock on the trigger SKU, the primary SKU, but really providing that value add to the customer. And being that it's done by the order rule engine, this is running 24/7. It doesn't require human involvement. It's repeatable. Temp staff, core staff, it's easily actionable and repeatable. So let's come back to what we call add a line. A JBL running speaker. It has a pretty significant lithium-ion battery in it. It requires a hazardous goods sticker on the outside of the package. Again, I'm a firm believer that your warehouse staff should not be required to know what they're picking to successfully pick. So in this example, we automated. If any of the 3 colors of Bluetooth speakers are picked, we're going to add a line to this order that we send to the warehouse for picking. We're going to add the lithium sticker as a pickable SKU. So if you're picking by paper, you got 2 SKUs, Bluetooth speaker, sticker to check off. If you're picking on device, you got to do 2 scans, one for the speaker, one for the sticker. The fine for not having the sticker on the outside of the package is quite significant. By automating this, you're automating that workflow. You're taking away the risk of a mispick through automation, through an order rule. Now, this is a Bluetooth speaker, but it could just as easily be marketing swag. It could just as easily be a promotion. Buy a bed and box, get a free pillow. The free pillow you can have as an add-on line. You can create any combinations you want, driven off of conditions, and then add the lines to the order. This way, when the picker gets the order, they've got how X number of lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, the picking by device, scan, 100% pick rate, high success rate, driving customer satisfaction. When the order is fulfilled and we receive it back to techOMS, we strip the added lines off the order in techOMS when we're updating the sales channel. Because let's be honest, if you're passing marketing swag and you try and pass that back to Shopify, you're going to hit validation and it's going to reject the order because that's not part of the original order content. The only time you would see these add-on lines is in the event that you're using a packing slip. And my question would be, why are you still using a packing slip? So here's an example, and this is a very specific example where we're using an order reference action. So we're using the order rules engine to drive a reference. In this case, it's not based off of a condition, it's always going to do it. So we're going to drive its entity property. We're going to map the order number. So think Shopify fulfillment order number. We're going to create a code called fulfillment order. And we're going to come to our Synapse sales channel. Some WMSs have a limit on purchase order character length. So for example, Synapse Mayfinet has a 20 character limit. Fantastic system, but they currently have a limit on purchase order or order number, which means if you're trying to pass a Shopify order number, oftentimes a Shopify order number exceeds 20 characters. How do you work around that? Well, you pass the Shopify order number to a pass-through field within Synapse. And what you pass to the primary, let's look at a shipment reference number template. So rather than use the order number, we're going to use a shipment ID. Shipment ID is automatically generated within techSHIP. It's a unique 8-digit value that gets passed. So we'll pass the order with shipment ID, and in reference mapping, we're going to pass the fulfillment order to a pass-through field, thus bypassing a 20-character limit. There's a number of WMS systems that have a 20-character limit on PO, so this is actually quite common to have to do a secondary mapping specifically for Shopify's fulfillment orders. We looked at tags, we looked at static routing, we looked at dynamic routing, we looked at our fraud and our high order value holds, we looked at our lithium battery, sticker or marketing swag, we looked at using tags to define upgrades, we looked at adding signature required or assurance based off of order value, we looked at substitution rule for out of stock. We looked at setting up third-party shipping information, ClearStore, FedEx, Ground, third-party, apply the account number, Costco, UPS, 2-day expedited, apply the account number. Some of these are unique. Setting up order classes and gift messages are specific for a single WMS. So here's one where you can use counts of lines. So you can see sales line number. So every single line number in techOMS gets a line attached to it. In this case, we can look for line number equals 4. So if line number equals 4 is true, this is 4 items. It's a 4-pack. Then again, another unique case, but in this case, if you're creating packaging information or you want to update some rules, an automation within your WMS based off of the number of lines in an order, you can actually use techOMS to count the number of lines in an order, and you can then pass that information as a reference value along with that order. We looked at split shipment, we looked at reference mapping, we looked at missing bill to information, we looked at product substitution that's tag based, so not out of stock. This would be your hot dog example. 12 packs is nearing end of life, so we're going to substitute the 8-pack for the 12-pack, offer value to the customer, and deplete our inventory. Brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you for joining me as we explored order management rules in techOMS. Be sure to tune in next month for our next episode in our Tech Academy series, where we'll continue unlocking efficiencies and helping you get the most out of techOMS. Thank you.